everybody, and welcome to the last day of Wizard of Oz. Isn't that crazy? Day 11, last day? Oh no, I love Wizard of Oz. I don't want it to go away. Well, I hope you like the story.
Dorothy wept bitterly at losing her chance to get home to Kansas again. The morning after the balloon went up with Oz, the four friends met in the throne room. "If Dorothy would only be contented to live in the Emerald City," said the Scarecrow, "we might all be happy together." But Dorothy, of course, wanted to go home to live with Aunt Em and Uncle Henry. The Scarecrow thought, and finally he said, "Why not call the winged monkeys and ask them to carry you over the desert?" "Well, I never thought of that." Dorothy put on the golden cap and spoke the charm to summon the band. Soon the winged monkeys flew in through an open window. The Monkey King bowed and said, "This is the second time you have called. What do you wish?" "I want you to fly with me to Kansas," said Dorothy. "We cannot," he said. "We belong to this country alone and cannot leave it. We will be glad to serve you, but we cannot cross the desert." He bowed to them, spread his wings, and flew away. Dorothy was ready to cry with disappointment. So the Scarecrow thought again, and finally he suggested they call in the soldier with the green whiskers. The soldier entered the throne room, and they asked how Dorothy might cross the desert. He suggested that perhaps Glinda, the Good Witch of the South, might help. "Glinda rules over the Quadlings," he explained. "The road to her castle goes straight south, but it is full of dangers to travelers. There are wild beasts in the woods, and a race of queer men who do not like strangers in their country." When the soldiers left, the Scarecrow said, "It seems, in spite of the dangers, that the best thing Dorothy can do is to ask Glinda to help her. If Dorothy stays here, she will never get back to Kansas." The Scarecrow's doing a lot of thinking, isn't he, since he got his brains? "I shall go with Dorothy," declared the lion. For I long for the woods and the country again. Besides, Dorothy will need me to protect her." "That is true," agreed the Tin Woodman. "I too will go with her." "When shall we start?" asked the Scarecrow. "Are you going?" they asked in surprise. "Certainly. If it was not for Dorothy, I should never have had brains." "We'll go tomorrow morning," he said, "for it will be a long journey." So they're all going to go together. They are good friends and loyal to each other, huh? There's the Emerald City. The next morning, they all shook hands with the soldier with the green whiskers, who had walked with them as far as the gate. When the guardian of the gates saw them again, he at once unlocked their spectacles, which he put back into the green box, and gave them many good wishes to carry with them. "You are now our ruler," he said to the Scarecrow, "so you must come back to us as soon as possible." "I certainly shall, if I am able," the Scarecrow replied. As Dorothy bade the good-natured guardian farewell, she said, "I have been very kindly treated in your lovely city. I cannot tell you how grateful I am." "Don't try, my dear," he answered. "We should like to keep you with us, but if it is your wish to return to Kansas, I hope you will find a way." He then opened the gate, and they started upon their journey. The sun shone brightly as our friends turned their faces toward the land of the South. Dorothy was once more filled with hope of getting home, and the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman were glad to be of use to her. As for the Lion, he sniffed the fresh air with delight and pure joy at being in the country again, while Toto ran around them barking merrily all the time. "City life does not agree with me at all," remarked the Lion as they walked along at a brisk pace. What do you think brisk means? They walked along at a brisk pace. Brisk means fast. "Now I am anxious for a chance to show the other beasts how courageous I have grown." They turned and took a last look at the Emerald City. All they could see was a mass of towers and steeples behind the green walls, and above everything, the spires and a dome of the Palace of Oz. It is very shiny. "Oz was not such a bad wizard after all," said the Tin Woodman, his heart rattling around in his breast. "He knew how to give me very good brains," said the Scarecrow. "If Oz had taken a dose of the same courage he gave me," asked the Lion, "he would have been a brave man." Dorothy said nothing. Oz had not kept his promise to her, but she forgave him. He was a good man, even if he was a bad wizard. Well, that was nice of her to forgive him, huh? The first day's journey was through the green fields and bright flowers. They slept that night on the grass, with nothing but the stars over them. In the morning, they traveled on until they came to a thick wood. There was no way of going around it, for it seemed to extend to the right and left as far as they could see. So they looked for the place where it would be easiest to get into the forest. The Scarecrow, who was in the lead, finally discovered a big tree with such wide spreading branches that there was room for the party to pass beneath. But just as he came under the first branches, they bent down and twined around him, and the next minute he was raised from the ground and flung headlong among his fellow travelers. This did not harm the Scarecrow, but he looked rather dizzy when Dorothy picked him up. "Here is another space between the trees," called the Lion. So here's the Scarecrow and the tree that grabbed him. Oh my goodness. And here's everybody down there looking very surprised. Look at the Lion. And here are the trees. I wonder if anyone notices anything about these trees. Look at that.
I know I do.
Oh, Fiona, what do you notice? What do you notice about this tree, for example?
This tree, these look like the eyes. This looks like a nose, and that looks like a mouth.
Oh my gosh. Do you guys agree with Fiona? The eyes, the nose, and the mouth. I think you're right. Oh my. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I like this one. "Let me try it first," said the Scarecrow, "for it doesn't hurt me to get thrown about." He walked up to another tree, but its branches immediately seized him and tossed him back again. "This is strange," exclaimed Dorothy. "The trees seem to have made up their minds to stop our journey," remarked the Lion. "I believe I will try it myself," said the Woodman, and, shouldering his axe, he marched up to the first tree that had handled the Scarecrow so roughly. When a big branch bent down to seize him, the Woodman chopped at it so fiercely that he cut it in two. At once, the tree began shaking all its branches as if in pain, and the Tin Woodman passed safely under it. "Come on," he shouted to the others. "Be quick." They all ran forward and passed under the tree without injury. The other trees of the forest did nothing to keep them back, so they decided that probably the first row of trees were the policemen of the forest, and were given this wonderful power in order to keep strangers out of it. So these are policeman trees. I like the idea of that.